I'm glad to hear you're happy.
Ecstatic. I really am. Exhausted, to be honest, but what could I expect? He is half lion, half stag.
Hey everybody, welcome to our podcast. I'm Jason.
And I'm Grace.
And I'm Mr. Blahg.
And this is Game of Microphones, episode 7, lucky number 7. Grace has declined to take the throne this week, so I'll be the acting queen, I guess.
Okay, you queen, go for it.
You're the hand.
Before we get started, I just wanted, we put out that Gwendolyn Christie interview on episode 3 a few weeks ago. And people have been listening to it, and we've been getting some good responses, which I'm happy about because I think it's great. And I wanted to read just a couple of Facebook comments that you guys have left. Heather Lewis Sanders says, absolutely love that. What Gwendolyn had to say about women and strength and beauty. I want to play it for my 12-year-old daughter and for all my middle school students. I love her. And Janalee Curtis said, this whole interview repeatedly gave me chills. Gwendolyn Christie not only brings to life a uniquely beautiful, strong female character in a predominantly male world, she's also incredibly insightful and well-spoken. She was certainly inspiring. Thank you for sharing.
It was actually those Facebook comments that inspired me to finally listen to it. It was good. I listened this weekend.
She was awesome. I mean, me and Aaron, conducted that, but we could have just sat there and listened. I mean, she was amazing. And yeah, I don't usually pimp our interviews, but if you didn't get a chance to listen, you might want to go back and take a listen.
It was definitely a good one. I highly recommend listening to that one. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's get into our top 5 highlights of Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 3, The High Sparrow. I kind of couldn't figure out why they called it The High Sparrow, because The High Sparrow had a part, but I'm not used to analyzing Game of Thrones titles, but do they kind of just pick, a name from one of the segments? Or it didn't seem like it was a big enough part to warrant naming the whole episode that.
Really? So you did not...
I mean, I don't know. Enlighten me. Am I wrong?
Well, it's a matter of... I think what you see is Cersei making... don't forget the fact that she is still playing the Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
And she is very much aligning herself in this episode with the High Sparrow.
Yeah, totally.
She goes to meet up with him and all these things. And what happened with the High Septon was a bit of a big deal. I mean, that was, that's essentially like the Pope, in terms of their religion. And the fact that she is now siding with what many people would consider to be somewhat of a zealot.
Fringe, yeah. Fanatics.
Is a bit of a deal. It's definitely, and of course, it's the introduction of the High Sparrow into the story, and the fact that it's Jonathan Pryce, a very well-known actor, probably the 3rd highest ranking actor that's ever been on the show. I think he's going to be a much bigger deal in the show in the future. So
maybe just the fact that they did call the episode that should clue us in that this is going to lead to something very important.
Well, it was also the first time we met him. Last week it was the House of Black and White, and you could argue that there were probably some bigger events that happened in the episode than just the House of Black and White, but it was the introduction of it.
Yeah.
So perhaps some of these titles have more to do with the introduction of what will be major events or major characters or locations, however you want to look at it. So I think that's where the title really comes from, because although he seemed very simple and basic in these kinds of things, he certainly had a certain twinkle to his eye. He's presented as this nearly saint-like figure, in what is, as you just said, a fringe type group. So I think that's, I think the title is just letting you know this is kind of significant.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting with this show, getting into this more podcasting analytical mindset. We've done Walking Dead for years. I feel like it's a little harder to pull a theme from the episode because it's just a different type of show, structured differently. I mean, there are definitely themes.
Well, there's definitely themes, yeah.
But I think Walking Dead, the writers tend to sort of want to emphasize a theme in an episode a lot of times, where
especially
in Game of Thrones, with
especially
Gimple. Yeah, but with Game of Thrones, I feel like it's more just about this huge tapestry of a story, and there are themes that weave throughout, but they're not so discreetly tied to each episode necessarily, which is fine. I mean, that's
and I don't think they are necessarily tied to individual episodes, but I think you see overreaching arcs that go on through a season. Similar, and that is where I'll say Walking Dead does that very, very well. I think Walking Dead does a very good job of those arcing themes throughout a season, episodes as well. But with Game of Thrones, last week I mentioned identity.
Yeah, that was
being
great.
a bit of a theme with that. Now I felt like this episode continued on with that, but instead of just people wrestling with their identity, I felt there was a real strong movement towards the transformations of some of those individual identities really finally taking hold. I mean, here, let's just throw a couple of examples out just very, very quickly. You've got Jon Snow now really taking on the position of Lord Commander and taking it very seriously. He has made his decision as far as, is he a Stark or not? No.
Jon Snow, I already believe him as the Lord Commander after just one episode. He's fully embodies it.
Well, and they did a great job. I mean, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I mean, you want to talk about an amazing contrast in leadership styles between, say, him and Dany.
Mm-hmm.
That was very significant. I don't think there was speaking of thematics, I don't think there's a mistake that you have two beheadings, one episode after the other. One received very well, one received very poorly. I mean, Jon took a lot of lessons from his father to understand if you are going to condemn somebody to death, you do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. And for that, he earned, I believe he will have earned a certain amount of respect. Whereas with Dany, she does that, has somebody else enact it, and look what happens.
Not to mention killing a sympathetic character versus somebody who everybody kind of understands should be.
Yeah, that certainly helps. Yeah, when you're dealing with Janos Slynt, yeah, that certainly helps. But so again, transformation and identity, and I think that is, you get into Sansa, talk about embracing your identity at that point. She is and always will be a Stark, and now she's really embracing that and doing something with it. And I've said before, I think what we saw in the last season was season 4 at the end there, when she showed up in her dyed hair and her Mockingjay outfit. She is very much now playing the game. She understands now.
You keep saying that, and I kind of get that, but I still feel like she's a pawn. Littlefinger's controlling her and manipulating her. I don't feel like she's doing a very good job of playing the game.
Well, I mean, she still is a woman and doesn't have as much power maybe as some of the people surrounding her, but I don't feel that she's a true pawn like she used to be. I mean, I feel she made a choice right there on that hill, and I'm hoping that something's going to come of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you see a little spark in her eye when he says avenge them.
Yeah.
I think that was a very key little thing. Absolutely. Because you got to think back to when she started, this little girl who loved lemon cakes, needlepoint, her friend Jane Poole, and just being a silly little girl, and all she wanted to do was to be the queen and the sexy prince, and to now is this a stark difference, no pun intended, but a stark contrast between what she was and what she is now. I think is phenomenal. I love that.
I mean, that's it though. Like, he pushed her button. He said, certainly, you can avenge yourself.
Oh, he's still playing.
Just before that, he was trying to convince her, oh, well, he's going to be, Ramsay's going to be the Warden of the North, trying to say you're going to be in a position of power. And then when he saw that wasn't working, it looked like he was saying, oh, you can avenge. So I wasn't even sure what his angle was, but it looked like he was doing whatever he could to get her to do what he wanted her to, and he succeeded.
Oh, sure. I mean, nobody's going to doubt that or question the fact that Littlefinger is still ultimately the main puppeteer behind whatever it is that he's got planning, because he does have his fingers in a lot of different things, and we will never know all the things he has going on until the end, I'm sure. But I really liked this episode from beginning to end.
I did too, yeah.
Oh, me too.
I feel it was as strong, if not better, than the last episode.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
Yeah.
it. And these are the characters I like to watch as well. And speaking of themes and Sansa and Jon, I mean, I felt like a big theme of this one was the past and vengeance too. And, will they or can they leave their past behind and all this? And when you were talking about Jon and the scene where he was forced to assert his new authority, that moment where he was hesitating, my mind kind of jumped right back to when he had captured Ygritte, I can't say her name. And, he should have killed her, but he just couldn't bring himself to do such a difficult thing. And right then and there, like in that moment, I really thought Jon was going to show mercy on Janos when he was begging. But,
I thought for a moment he would too, yeah.
But nope, and that is such a big change for his character. And so he is changing, he's growing up, but yet he's embodying some of these beliefs that Ned had too. It's nice to see some of these things come around full circle and, play around again. It's cool to watch.
Yeah, when I first saw like Ned, the whole first season, Ned was the hero, and his sons, Rob and John and even Theon, I thought, oh, they're never going to be able to rise up and fill his shoes. And Rob kind of did.
Yeah, he died.
But yeah, did the same thing. It's a family tradition. But I really feel like Jon Snow right now is the closest that we've seen, just in his demeanor and in his actions.
Oh, well, for sure. And I love the way Stannis made that point of that. Your father was honorable too. I'll take that as the highest compliment. It wasn't meant as a compliment, I thought that was very telling. His honorable nature is exactly what got Ned killed. And they make a very clear point that not everybody, most of the Night's Watch do not agree with Jon's favorable stance towards the free folk. So,
and he kind of shot a look over to Ollie when he said that.
Yeah, and Ollie, of course, is the one whose parents were killed by the Thenns. Ollie's the one who killed Gilly. He is obviously not a free folk sympathizer. And Jon made it very clear to keep your enemies closer.
Yep.
So he's made Ollie his what's the word I'm looking for here? Not apprentice, squire, or something else. I think he's steward. That's it, steward.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you talking about Ned and his sons, and one difference between Rob and Jon that's come about is that Jon has made this promise and took this vow, and he's sticking to it. He's sticking by to the Night's Watch and his vow. But there was Rob who made a promise to marry the Frey girl, and he didn't, and that's part of the reason he was killed. So.
Right.
Maybe this will play out differently, I hope.
Yeah, you never know. But yeah, I admire him for sticking to it. Like, I thought as soon as Stannis offered him the chance to be Jon Stark and be Warden of the North, I was thinking, I'd probably take that,
Yeah.
if it was me. But I admired him for not doing it.
I got to throw out my apologies if anybody hears my direwolf puppy barking in the backyard in the background. He and my mountain cat here have been fighting, so I keep hearing the direwolf barking, just so you know.
He's telling us to move into the top 5.
I think so. Well, what about our ratings? Come on.
Well, I don't want to rate. I'm going to not rate this show, but I really loved it.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on then.
Go ahead. You can't.
No, I was just last week I gave it a 4.5. I got to give this one a 4.51. That's all. So let's slightly better.
Yeah, I liked it a little better too.
Yeah, I think I liked it more than just a 1/10 of a point or whatever you're giving it. Better, but I think it's a lot has to do with I really like these characters that they showed this time, whereas Danny I'm not quite as interested in at this point in the story.
Lately, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you go first, Grace?
Okay, my number 5, and I think this is something that one of you guys had touched on, like a similar point in a recent episode, but the characters coming together, and specifically for my number 5, coming together in the North. But, I'm excited to see all these characters together and the prospect of even more of them possibly meeting up at Winterfell. I mean, it just has me giddy. Sansa just arrived. Stannis said he was going to march on Winterfell within the fortnight. Will Jon go with him? I thought Davos had a pretty good point there. And then
Davos
Brienne's headed that way.
Yeah.
And
it's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Davos, it looked like Davos might have got under his skin a little bit. You think he might
a little bit
cave?
I don't know. I mean, he's held up to, he held up to a better offer. If he was going to cave, you'd think he would have caved when the offer was still on the table. But
I mean, he appealed to his like protector nature. Like, oh, if you really want to protect people, then you'll do this. So that was what got him to crack a little bit.
Well, he just pointed out the very nature of the vow, and of the oath.
Shields that guards the realms of men.
Yeah, and this gets into things like, what does Varys protect? Varys is always about protecting the realm. He was not about protecting King's Landing or the king, But
that's bull. I mean, the Night's Watch is very clearly supposed to stay out of the politics and to be there in the north to protect the realm from the horrors above.
Which I think would be a big mistake. And that is where I agree with John, that this is where Stannis and everybody else seem to keep forgetting what's really coming. It's so funny.
They don't believe it. They don't even believe it.
I'm sure Melisandre believes it.
You think? Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I can't say sure, but I'm assuming that Melisandre believes it. It's hard to say. It's so fascinating to me that the real threat keeps looming, and yet everybody keeps toiling with the politics of everything. But I
mean, I think most of them just think it's a myth.
Sure, there is
even
that.
Now.
But
we haven't seen the real threat in a while.
Right.
A couple weeks.
I don't even believe it anymore. It's been so long,
and that's why they have you beaten already. No, I love the fact that everybody is right now converging on Winterfell. I think it's a great thing that's happening, and it's also, here's the other thing that they keep playing with a lot this season. We've already seen it a few times, where you have all these people just barely missing each other, just passing each other, one another. We see that as well in Volantis, of course, with Tyrion and Jorah later on. But this whole thing of everybody just missing or just passing each other and then coming together. I mean, we had that last week with Brienne finally hooking up with Sansa, and she's still chasing her. I loved that. I love the fact that she's still chasing her, and that ultimately, what is her main purpose now? And I thought that was great with Brienne, that we now see.
Kill Stannis.
To kill Stannis. She doesn't know Stannis is marching to Winterfell.
But yeah,
she's still going after
She's going to
Sansa.
get her chance.
Yep. So they did a good job of reminding us.
Yes.
You're talking about going back to old places, and it's so perverted to see Winterfell now the domain of the Boltons.
Yeah.
And poor Theon/Reek is sort of hiding in the shadows, and like, oh my God, there's Sansa. Last time they were there,
another
it was a whole different story.
Yeah.
And I also, just what really put it into focus or perspective was seeing these sort of flayed men hanging here and there. It's like, for the Boltons, you just put up a flayed man here and there to make it feel a little homier.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you don't pay your taxes.
All right, your turn, Mr. Blahg.
Oh, alrighty. My number 5 was actually the conversation with Brienne and Pod. Absolutely love that. They give you a wonderful little taste of backstory for both of them, which we really didn't have that much of, especially the Brienne one, about her story of the dance and being called Brienne the Beauty, and how Renly comes in to really just make her feel better, and at that time, her not realizing another outsider coming towards an outsider to help out. And of course, we get the final answer of, did Brienne know that Renly was gay? Yes, she is not an idiot. I loved that. That puts that to rest. She did not quite love him in that way necessarily. But also,
well, it didn't say that. She may have still loved him.
But she's not but
it didn't seem like it, though. It just seemed like she really appreciated what he did.
That's what I'm getting at.
Maybe.
Sure, I guess she could have been completely self-deluded.
But maybe not romantic love. Maybe
that's what I mean. No, she loved him, but not romantically. Yeah. And then the story of Pod and just that whole exchange, I loved it. It showed a certain softening of Brienne, where she finally apologized for snapping at him all the time. And he's just adorable in the way that he's like, what are you talking about? It's great. You're making me a better person, but you're the best fighter I've ever seen. I love that whole exchange. It felt very natural. I adore those two together. I think they just make a great team, and I'm happy anytime they are on screen. So that's my number 5.
I really liked that Gwendolyn Christie can do a whole monologue like that, telling her backstory and make it so rich and interesting, and her mood changes. And, she's just a really great actress. So that was a pleasure to watch.
Oh, I can't wait to see her in Star Wars.
Oh, what the hell is she going to play? She's probably going to play a villain. I could see that.
I know you don't want to know, so I'm not going to say.
Oh, you know? Yeah, please don't tell me and all.
I don't know, but I have an idea. Let's put it that
way. I've been done so well at avoiding most spoilers up until now, and it's 8 short months away.
Yeah. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is The Faceless Men.
Nice.
Who I am endlessly fascinated by. The concept of the Faceless Men is pretty morbid, but I also find it really cool. They're basically like Zen death god assassins. And I've always been interested in like Taoism and Buddhism, and it has that component to it, talking about how to serve well, a girl must become no one. And that reminded me of the Tao Te Ching, which says, that's a Taoist text that says the way that can be named is not the eternal way. And the idea is like getting tied into rigid identities, then we lose connection to the underlying eternal truth of things. And so you have to kind of give up your ego.
The self does not exist.
Yeah. And let go of your identity. And that's what they're training her to do. But that's all in service of this. They have their own kind of weird, perverse twist where death to them is this, it's part of the natural order of things. And there's sort of this, it feels like a cosmic balance, because when Arya first got into contact with Jack and Hagar, the whole reason why he agreed to, or he told her he would kill 3 people for her, is because she saved him and his 2 buddies. And so that deprived the gods of 3 deaths.
Interesting that you say gods.
Well, the god, he said the red god.
Oh, he said the many-faced god.
He said the red god in the show.
Back in the day, back the other season.
Yeah.
Oh,
when
the
he
other
first
season.
met her.
Okay, when he first met her. All right.
But the only way that makes sense to me is because apparently they feel like all the gods are just manifestations of the many-faced god.
Okay, yeah.
I think.
And what did you take the many-faced god to be?
It's just their god. I mean, they think he's the ultimate god of death.
Okay, there we go. That's what I was.
Yeah, the god of death. And so they're sort of cult-like, but a lot of times with like fringe cults, you get the leaders saying they can do things like change the weather or even like pass through walls or whatever. And the followers actually believe it. I mean, this is a real thing that happens in our world. But in this cult, we've seen them do magic things. And they're so like change their face or just be able to kill whoever they want. So that makes them suddenly more like, oh my God, maybe, I mean, I don't know. I guess I could understand why, if Arya's ultimate purpose is to take vengeance on people, that she would go want to train with these guys who are assassins. I've been going on a little bit, but the other thing that's really interesting to me is I guess you can pay them a huge exorbitant sum and they will kill anyone you want. But it's so big of a sum that kings would rather sometimes go other routes rather than have to pay it. Like, I think it can even be a baby or something. You have to give them a baby or something like that. I don't know. And then the last thing is that I guess the guy was drinking from the fountain inside the House of Black and White. I think that's poison. He killed himself.
Well, Jaqen gave him that cup.
But I think he came for it.
Yes. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But the point is Jaqen gave that to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he knew what it was because he looked pretty scared. But it was interesting that there's just a lot of, all their activities are surrounding death. And then, Arya's washing the body of, I think, a different guy who drank from the fountain later on. So morbid. That's all.
Well, I mean, all men must serve.
Right.
That is the service to the many-faced God right there,
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
You kill or you
assist.
Administered to the dead. Different things like that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Grace.
One last thing. I'm sorry. Just then this is sort of a theme that the sparrows and the faceless men are both sort of into this letting go of ego. The Sparrows, they're saying, none of us are special. We're all equal. So I don't know. You might see a parallel there, or I could just be making something out of it.
Well, I mean, I think the parallel is that they all seem to live a very ascetic life.
Yeah.
They give up, the finer things or the distractions, if you will, of a normal life in order to really focus on their religion, on their craft, whatever you want to put it, So yeah, there's certainly
unlike the Septon.
Unlike the Septon,
Right.
yeah, who
He's caught up in the pleasures of the world.
of the body, indeed.
The body. Yeah.
Well, and it's
Go,
not like he's
Septon.
hurting for food or shelter and fine clothes. He's living the life, the Septon.
Yeah, and that's not the role he's choosing for himself. He is not living an ascetic life for sure, and I think that should, you can look at certain churches that exist currently in the world that are making a fortune off of the believers,
And then they have these ostentatious trappings and everything. Okay, Grace.
Okay, totally switching. Here, my number 4 is Cersei versus Marjorie.
Oh,
And
man, that was
how
awesome.
How
So
many times
great.
am I going to put this on my list? I don't know, but it's just a joy to watch these two play their game. I mean, Tommen's breathing had barely gotten back to normal, and Marjorie was already working her magic to get Cersei out of King's Landing. I mean, and her manipulation was just masterful. She knows where his soft spots are. She's making him feel like he couldn't be a real man or a real king under his mom's protective eye. And, then there's Cersei. I feel like they're like two devils each on his shoulder. Cersei's like sitting on the other shoulder and, getting her little jabs in. She smiles quite a lot. Do you think she's intelligent? I can't quite tell.
Totally ineffective, I would say. He doesn't even
Ineffective.
care whether she's intelligent. Yeah.
No. To a teenage boy who just got laid for the first time, he does
even
not
she
give
said,
a
yeah,
rat's
not
ass.
that it matters.
No, and I love how much of a teenage boy he was, where
That was just glorious.
Yes.
he's like, I want to do this
Oh,
every day,
hilarious.
all the time. Oh, that's all I want to do from now on. I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, you do.
And she said, wouldn't that be glorious?
Yeah,
And she's
yeah.
so good at making it believable. It just makes me question interactions I've had with women.
No, I love she played, but she played Cersei like just a fiddle. I mean, not only I'm sorry we don't have any wine this early in the day. That was a nice little
That was
dig.
great.
And then of course, what do I
Your
call?
son's making me so exhausted.
Oh, that was just gross. But then the one that was the real dig. What do I call you now? Queen Mother or Dowager Queen? It's like, oh, fuck, that's terrible, man. How could you say that to her?
That's a widow, right? The Dowager Queen means that you're a widower.
A widower who is no longer the queen.
Right.
You were the queen, but no longer.
And Queen Mother means that too. It
Yeah.
just means you're no longer the queen.
She's reminding her of who is queen,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
for sure.
But what I found interesting, this is the first episode where I can honestly say you can feel, at least for the majority of the episode, you can feel a certain sympathy for Cersei. I mean, there's a sadness there. I did. I genuinely felt she went from being I felt she went from being manipulatively evil to manipulatively pathetic. When she's in her little palanquin there and everybody's going, "We love you, Queen Marjorie, we love you," and she's just alone and sad in there. There was a little part of my heart that's just like, oh man, that's
it's the
rough.
whole she made her bed, she has to sleep in it now thing.
Yeah. And then her son trying to get rid of her. But I didn't feel sympathy for her either.
No,
I did.
either.
I did. It was interesting. I mean, I don't like her necessarily, but as a character, I found a certain amount of sympathy. Yes, she made her own bed. Agreed. But this bed is very far way away from what she thought it was going to be.
One thing I wonder is, now that Tywin's gone, it seems like, and, Cersei's kind of preoccupied with, trying to maintain power, but also, going after Tyrion. Jaime's off. It looks like Marjorie's really the one with the most power and the most power to influence Tommen to get stuff done. Somebody in that group needs to be aware that, hey, we better shore up our power because we're kind of in a weak position right now. But none of them seem to be thinking about it.
The Lannisters.
You mean like the small council or?
Any of them. I mean, now that it's a boy king, and it just feels like they're with Tywin gone. Before he was kind of the mind behind everything, and now there isn't one.
Well, Kevin tried, but he was shut down.
Right. I mean, he was the only one that cared. The rest of the small council wants Cersei to have the power because it benefits them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I just think if they're going to hold on to the crown, then they need to protect it. And
right. They're looking at short term.
Right. And trying to shoo Cersei off might not be the smartest thing, although I don't know if she's the one who would be the best protector either.
Well, the small council is not trying to shoo her off. They're keeping
except for her uncle.
Except for Kevin, but he's going back to Casterly Rock at this point. He's kind of done with it. Mace Tyrell is a puppet of Cersei at this point. Meister Pycelle, he cracked me up in this episode when he's like, I think the private affairs of people should be left alone. Mr. Meister who goes off whoring himself.
That's subtle, yeah. Just while we were talking about the scene with Marjorie and Cersei, my thought was, holy shit, I can't believe you're saying this, because I wasn't thinking, well, she's the queen now, she has power. I was like, oh my God, you're challenging Cersei. Cersei's dangerous, I mean, Ned challenged Cersei, and then look what happened to him. And I wondered if Marjorie the tables have turned. She's the queen now. She has more power, at least on the surface. But I wondered if that is it's a bald-faced challenge. I think they both knew. They were looking each other in the eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were pretending to be cordial, but they both knew. But was it sort of her being careless and brash, or was it a calculated thing, kind of like beheading somebody to show that you're alpha, or is she just sort of being careless? Either way, I didn't feel like it was a good idea.
I mean, I think she's challenging her on purpose.
Yeah.
Who's going to come out on top, we'll see. But I think she was definitely challenging her.
It just seems like a scary proposition to do that to Cersei,
Yeah, because Cersei won't back down. Cersei will probably fight to her death.
And she's good at figuring out how to fuck people over.
Exactly.
And this is Marjorie's third go-around as queen. She was queen.
We'll see how long-lived this one is.
Queen under Joffrey, for a few minutes, and then queen under Tommen, literally under. I guess we're up to my number 4. You're true. You're right. Well, 4 times in the one night. I'm sure at one point she was under. My number 4 was actually Jon Snow's chat with Stannis in Davos, and I really thought that was incredible to hear Stannis finally actually call him Lord Commander. The way he said that was like, yeah, you just nailed that. You just, bam, hammered that nail in that coffin. Love that. And Davos's conversation with him that we already talked about, I thought was great.
And even though Stannis said that was not a compliment about him being honorable or whatever.
Honorable, yeah.
Then Davos tells him, he really likes you, basically. He sees something.
He sees something in you. Absolutely. I thought that was
Stannis is kind of a bristly guy.
Yeah. But you could even sort of tell, that he respected him.
Well, what's cool, I'm really beginning to like Stannis now.
Yeah, me too.
For a long time with the series, he is meant to be unlikable. He's meant to have the personality of a doorstop, but
I like him more lately, for sure.
I'm liking him a lot more.
Well, and he's easier to like when Melisandre is not there pulling his, or I feel pulling his strings. When he seems like he's making his own decisions, then I find him much more likable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's my number 4. We already talked about it.
My number 4 is Arya's obsession with vengeance. Back in season 2, when Yoren told Arya about how he used to recite the name of the guy who killed his brother, William, every night before.
Oh, last poor Yoren.
The lesson Yoren was trying to impart was that obsession with revenge will ruin your life, but that's not at all what Arya took from it. She's like, okay, I need to recite the names of everyone I want to kill. And I thought it was interesting that, she was going to go to the wall to find Jon Snow, but at the end of last season, she just happened upon this sea captain who's going to Braavos. And she's like, well, this seems like a good time to go and learn how to be a death assassin because I have all these people to kill. And so in her training with the faceless man, it's interesting to me that she has to let go of everything that makes her Arya Stark. That's what they want. And she does let go of everything except for the sword, which
Needle.
Which I think represents her need for revenge. And she's not ready to let go of that.
Yeah,
because
but
that's
it's
what she
also
uses
her childhood
to carry
too.
it out.
I think it represents more than just one thing. I mean, back in season 1,
It's family.
It was John that gave her that, and that's Winterfell. That's John. That's her childhood, and so I think that's also important to her and important to who she is, and a part of herself that she can't let go.
Yeah, I don't think that's so much the revenge that she's having a hard time letting go of. I think that is meant to be Arya Stark.
Well, I think it's
that
both.
She can't.
I
quite
think it's
let
both.
go.
I mean, we saw
It
her
is to a
on the
certain
steps
degree.
still reciting her prayer. Of course, she didn't know about.
Sure. It's a lot shorter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
though some of the names just randomly dropped off. I've realized.
I think the mountain was still on the list, but
I think I disagree with you guys. I think that the only thing that's important to her now is killing these people. She could have went and seen Jon Snow in the north, but she chose to go to Bravos to train to be an assassin. And this sword is the sword that she's used to kill a lot of people now. And that's what she spends her time doing, reciting the people that she's going to kill, probably with that sword. And I really think that she saw letting go of that sword and whether she did or not, she does need to let go of that. According to the ideals of the faceless men, she's got to let go of everything. And I think that's sort of ironic that, if I'm right, that she would need to let go of that vengeance, because then it would sort of make the assassin training pointless, because that's why she's doing it, so that she will be good at killing, so you can go kill these people. But there's also kind of a paradoxical nature to these philosophies about, when you get into Zen and, the idea of giving up an attachment to things and then you're more likely to get it. I've encountered that in my own life. Like if I really want to date somebody and I finally just kind of give up, then sometimes it'll happen more naturally because you don't let yourself want it as much. So I sort of think there's something to that.
Well, the thing with Needle, though, I mean, this is something that she had lost at one point and gained back, and there's a big history with her and Needle.
Of course, yeah. Jon Snow gave it to her. Yeah, she's had it the whole series.
Yeah. So I do think there's more to it than just her desire for vengeance. But sure, I mean, that's certainly a part of it.
Yeah, I don't think it has to mean one thing. I think it can be broader.
No, I don't think it does have to mean one thing. I think it means a lot of different things. There's one thing I also want to mention about with Arya, which was wonderful, and where she's at now. And I think this goes back to season 3. There was some point, I can't remember. She might have been with the Bloody Mummers at the point where she said something along. They said like, who do you worship, or or do you worship to the 7 gods, whatever it was. And she said, no, I only worship to death.
Mm.
And that sounded really, and everybody laughed because it sounded really funny coming out of this little 9-year-old girl's mouth. And yet now here she is serving death.
What is it that makes you think that her burying that sword has something to do with like sweet nostalgia versus just, it's an instrument of death?
And I'm not even saying sweet, though I do think that's part of it. But I think Needle represents who she is as a person, who Arya is. Just wielding that sword, and that's the person she is, and that was kind of the message.
But that's the whole.
Well, even without the vengeance, I think Needle represents Arya.
Well, why would she not give that up? I mean, she's there to learn to be a faceless man.
She's not ready for it. She is not completely ready for that.
And part of it might be the vengeance.
She did.
But I just don't think it's the whole thing.
I mean, the one thing we know for sure that she's not ready to give up is she's not ready to give up that list. I know for sure she's not ready to give up that list. We didn't see that in this episode,
but we didn't see that in this episode. So what makes you think
she doesn't need Needle to kill somebody either?
No, she does not.
No, that's why I say it represents.
In this episode, we also saw very clearly that she's very quick to jump on this thing where she thinks she's ready. The girl said, he said, I was playing this game of faces. I'm ready. She jumps. She doesn't even know what she's agreeing to. She's just so sure that she's ready.
Yeah. No, I mean, she's obviously not ready for something, but I do hope that we get to see some of the actual, like this episode, we've seen this sort of Karate Kid sweeping kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to see some actual assassin training and learning how to change faces and all that. But then I wonder if it would take away from some of the mystique of it. And I hope she does get there, though. And I want to know if she'll change her face, and will they hire a different actress? That would kind of suck. Will she always be the same size no matter what face she has?
Patience.
It'll come around about the time of winter.
Exactly. Never.
A man will find out.
Let go. All right, I'll let go of my attachment to anything. It's a good idea with this show.
Just let the story wash over you. It's there.
Okay, it is your turn, Grace.
Okay. My number 3 is Sansa, and we have talked about her a bit, but, I just want to just say again how much she has been captivating me all season. Like half the day I was wondering if either Jon or Brienne would get to Winterfell in time to save Sansa before, she's wed to that monster Ramsay. But then I remembered that look of determination she had when she was getting back on the horse after Littlefinger's talk. And then I was like, well, maybe she's going to be like that book, The Princess Who Saved Herself. Maybe we are going to get to finally see Sansa really play the game. And I've been saying that I think she is coming to her own. And, I know you don't totally agree, Jason, but I don't know. I just love watching the process of this. And I don't know where it's going. And I think that's really super exciting.
I'm totally, I mean, God, just thinking of, last week you guys were like, oh, there's a marriage proposal on the table. And then it turns out it's Sansa and Ramsay.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, when I saw that, I'm like, man, you guys are so amazing that you can keep these book spoilers under your hat.
No, just so you know, look, there's a lot of territory.
Huh?
There are a lot of territory here where it's either past it or totally changed.
Oh.
So, Grace, you and I have a lot of neat things to talk about in our book talk section. But there are things that are changed, and they've done this the whole way through with the books. Of course, they'll tweak little things. I believe ultimately the end results will be similar.
But now more than any time, it's different.
It really is. It really is. So we do not necessarily get the smug satisfaction of really knowing what's going on. Sansa's a big part of that. Now, I do have a clue, and we'll talk about that in book talk. But for now, we'll just say, no, I don't know. I really don't know.
Let's talk about Littlefinger and Sansa. So he kind of cupped the back of her head and convinced her to marry Ramsay. What's it for? So I think that people in the North still respect the Stark name, so we know.
Well, you had the old woman saying, the North remembers.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So we know what Roose gets out of it, but what about Littlefinger? I mean, he says he's now in the family because he's Sansa's uncle, so, maybe on the surface it's an alliance between the Eyrie and Winterfell, but he did say that line about vengeance, so is he doing it because he actually does want her to kill Roose Bolton?
I don't know.
We don't know what he's up to.
I mean, you don't know what Littlefinger's up to.
Yeah. Do you think Ramsay will make a good husband to Sansa?
Oh, God, no.
Oh, God, no. Ramsay Bolton is a monster. He said Joffrey looks like a puppy.
I know.
No.
Well, he said, she really is lovely. I hope I can make her happy, and I'll never hurt her. You have my word. Was that sincere or just full of shit?
I think that was complete full of shit. Ramsay Bolton is a no.
It was just like when he was trying to be friends with Theon when we first met him.
So here's the thing I loved after the end of the 4th season, really even after the end of the 3rd season, was, we'd spent so much time believing the Lannisters were the big baddies of the whole series, right? And then all of a sudden shit starts shifting. Tywin is still a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. Jaime becomes very sympathetic, a nice character. Cersei, you realize, is just kind of crazy and messed up. But the Boltons are pure fucking evil. Roose is just horrible. Ramsay is sadistic and god-awful. And Michael Bolton, don't get me started on how evil that guy is. But Ramsay
he was on Last Week Tonight recently.
Was he really?
With John Oliver, yeah.
Oh, I saw something about that. Yeah, that was really funny. I did see that. But Ramsay Bolton is somebody who, look, this guy cut off Theon's dick and sent it to his family.
But maybe he's the kind of guy I'm just playing devil's advocate, but he'll be a sweet husband at home and then go off and flay people. I don't think he's going to flay her. I mean, he might be nicer to her than Joffrey was.
It's possible. I mean, I don't know that he knows in his mind that he's going to hurt her. I mean, right now he's playing at being a lord, and maybe he has good intentions.
He's kissing his daddy's ass,
but
too.
And I don't believe he's hurt his lover. I don't remember her name, the one with the dark hair with the M name that gave Sansa that look.
Yeah.
I don't believe he's...
A few women seem to give...
No, but the two of them together went and hunted that other girl down in the forest. Nice guy.
That was awful. Oh my god.
No, Ramsay's pretty fucked up. I mean, I'm sorry. There's no two ways around that one. He is.
Oh, there's no arguing with you about that. I'm not.
But will he be a good husband? No, I don't think that's a zebra whose stripes don't change. I think he would, much the way Joffrey would have been a horrible husband. I do thoroughly believe Ramsay Bolton will be a very bad husband.
So, do you fear for Sansa?
Certainly, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really curious as to what's going to happen when Sansa sees Theon.
I know. I can't wait. I want to see that too.
I thought it was interesting that Littlefinger didn't bring up the death. Like, I mean, he mentioned Robb and Catelyn, but he didn't mention that the Boltons were also responsible for her brother's death or supposed deaths. I mean, I would think the word got back to them.
What do you mean? What? Bran?
Yeah, Bran and Rickon. I know they're alive. I know they are really alive. But
that was all on Theon.
So they don't know that it was part.
They don't know that Ramsay had a part.
I don't remember that part.
No. As far as they're concerned, that was all Theon. Yeah, that was all Theon as far as they're concerned.
Okay.
So that's the other reason why I'm really curious what's going to happen when Sansa sees him.
Yeah, because she's sure to recognize him.
Yeah.
Where are we? We're on number 3 with you, Mr. Blahg, I think.
Yeah, I guess now it's mine. My number 3, which we touched on briefly, was Tyrion leaving his box. Not only was that banter phenomenal with Varys, as far I'm tired of looking at you, I want to see another face, but it's a nice face. Those two are great together. And then they go through their little journey through Volantis, where we get, again, we're moving away from sex position into just flat out exposition, where we got Varys kind of walking around explaining what all the tattoos on the slave faces mean. And they're really banging home this thing about, yes, slavery here in Volantis. And then when Tyrion sees the Red Priestess, I loved that, because this is the first hint that we get that the R'hllor folks are looking to Dany as the prophet. Which makes sense. Fire god, right? She's got fucking dragons. She can withstand all this heat. Fire. I thought that was great. That look that actress gives to the priestess gives to Tyrion was like, ooh, does she recognize him? Mm-hmm. What is that look all about? Also, whoever that actress is, I don't know who she is, but I've seen her in some other things.
Yeah.
I like her. She was awesome. I mean, Tyrion's in. She was
creepy.
Great.
It's like if somebody in the TV just turned and looked at you. That's what it felt like.
Was she in X-Men Days of Future Past? I feel like she might have been. I didn't look this up. I should have.
Well, I wonder if she's able to see the future a bit as well. So.
Well, I think she can. I mean, look, we've said this before. Of all the gods, whether it's the many faces or the 7 or blah, 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 R'hllor is the one and only god so far that's doing shit. He's showing up. He's doing stuff. So R'hllor fascinates me. The priests and the priestesses of this, I love that Tyrion brought up Thoros of Myr again. To remind us of that. Now, Thoros of Myr was the Red Priest who was bringing Beric Dondarrion back over and over and over from the dead. So he's doing shit, But that whole scene, and then when you get to the brothel with Tyrion, loved it. Absolutely loved everything about it. From his charm and the fact that he just can't stop himself from kind of outing himself as a Lannister.
Idiot.
I
always pay my debts.
I'm known for that, you know.
Just wear a banner.
I used to be one of the richest men on the planet. You know?
That was so.
like, oh.
I was like, "What are you doing? Come on!"
But I love the fact that there was a prostitute that looks like Danny.
Yeah, he's like, it appears you're not the only Targaryen supporter.
Yeah. That was my favorite line
on Jorah's face.
Yeah.
Of just the longing on Jorah was like, oh.
Yeah, he just came out of a room with her right before that. No, I'm just kidding.
Hopefully he would have looked a little happier in that.
I have a suspicion that he has spent some time with her in the past.
Maybe so.
I'll say that.
But yeah, he does hang out there. So,
Well, my favorite line was, "Who needs wealth when you can make a woman laugh?"
That was beautiful. It really was, and that's the line I've kind of been using my entire life.
Do you think that the reason he couldn't go through with it was because of Shay?
Yeah, I think that is 99.5% the reason why he couldn't go through with it. Absolutely. I mean, Shay was the second woman that he's ever loved, and it's still too raw. You know, still a little too fresh.
A couple of weeks ago, last time I was on, I was saying, "Oh, I really can't wait for Tyrion to meet Daenerys, but you know, I shouldn't want that too much because then they'll rip it away." And then when Jorah captured Tyrion, I thought, "Oh, crap!" But I guess he's probably going to take him to her, right?
He said, "I want to take you to the queen." Now, is that Cersei?
Cersei,
or is that Dany?
I think it's Dany because.
Me too.
Yeah, that's his queen,
right?
Yeah, but we don't know.
I don't think he has any idea about the bounty.
The only reason why I think it's Cersei is because I want it to be Dany.
Well, I think occasionally you'll get what you want.
You think you want it too bad?
You might get what I want. You do get what you want occasionally, because I've really enjoyed watching Jon Snow come into power, and that feels like, that's something I really want.
And nothing but good is going to come of that.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. But with Tyrion, I noticed that when he was pissing off of the pier or whatever, as he is wont to do, he just threw his cup in the water. It's like, dude, that's wasteful. I guess when you grow up in a castle, royalty, you just throw stuff
he's
away.
A Lannister. What are you going to do? And he's a dwarf, and, you know, he likes pissing off of high places.
Some poor person will probably find it. And
he's pissed off the wall. He pissed off of whatever that was. He pissed off of, I love that little guy. He's awesome.
Okay, my turn. My number 3 is Tommen, who we've already talked about some, but one of my wishes earlier was for him to have a bigger part, and he totally did this episode, and I thought the actor, Dean Charles Chapman, did a great job.
He did.
He was good. He was really good. And it reminded me of like a teen sex movie, like Private Lessons or something, where he's in bed with Marjorie, and it was so fun to watch, you know, him being so excited about it, and her, I couldn't tell if she got any pleasure out of it at all. I wouldn't be surprised if she really didn't get much.
Well, they at least spared us the details of their coupling, which I was grateful of. You know, I'm like,
you got the immediate aftermath.
Yes, you got the immediate. You hear a little panting, and that's all of it. Which I'm like, good. I don't need to see that. That's icky.
I was glad we got to see a wedding that nobody died in. And it was interesting that it was kind of more of a sober, spare affair than Joffrey's wedding.
Well, maybe they learned their lesson. Like, let's not waste the money on something that could end up really bad.
Exactly. But the thing about him, like when we've seen him before, he just seems like such a innocent kid. And now he still does, but he's now lusty. And it just seems like he wants to have sex with Marjorie over and over, and that's his whole purpose. And he wants his mom out of his hair. So he kind of wants to be a man too. He wants to be considered a man. But then another little interesting thing we learned about him is that he doesn't feel guilty about what happened to his brother. So you get all of these more colors of Tommen, and it starts to make me wonder, will he be a good person? Or, there's nothing in there that necessarily makes me think he won't, but it's just, I guess I'm afraid of what people in power will do on this show, and maybe Marjorie's awakening this beast, you know, we'll never know. But I mean, we might know. I hope we get a chance to see him kind of wake up and start doing things.
Yeah, well, I think he's a good kid, but I think that scene showed just how impressionable he is.
Yeah, that's true. He's very impressionable.
Mm-hmm. And, Marjorie has that really special power there
Yeah.
that he likes. So,
by the way, the actress,
that's a big
who
power.
played the Red Priestess, I did just look this up. Her name is Ryla Fukushima, and she was actually in the Wolverine and in the TV show Arrow. She's only been in like 8 things, but man, I liked her.
And the lusty part of Tommen kind of reminds me of Baratheon a little bit. He just wanted to.
Well, mind you, that is not his kid. That's not his kid.
That's like every
exactly
15-year-old boy. What are you talking about?
Of course it is. I know.
Dude, look at who he was just banging. He was just banging Natalie Dormer. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Oh my God. Go, Tommen.
I wonder now that she has power, what does she want to do with it? I mean, does she care? Does she have something else in mind, or did she just want to be the queen?
I don't know. What does Lady Olenna want?
Do you think she's going to pull some strings? She left the capital.
Yeah, but I believe Marjorie is very much a Tyrell, and I think power is just the main thing that she wants. I think, like Sansa, in many ways, she just wants to be queen for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I think she needs Tommen, and I think like she said, having a baby.
Yep.
That might be on the table now, and that would be just another way to secure her position is, to provide a little prince.
And I really do believe that she likes Tommen.
Yeah, I think so too.
Tommen's a sweet kid. I mean, he's a really sweet kid.
Yeah.
It seems like it's really hard to know with her because we're really starting to see little glimpses of what she's like when no one's watching. Like when she had the confrontation with Cersei and Cersei turned around, then just for a second, she got this kind of stony look on her face.
Oh, sure.
And then she let that smile spread across her face and turned to talk to her friends. So just for a second, there was some realness, but it just drives home the point that we rarely do get to see that. And so I feel like with her, you can't take anything at face value. It sure did seem like she was having fun with Tommen, but I don't know if I believe it or not.
Yeah, and you don't really know, but if Cersei was some wonderful, caring mother-in-law, would she need to manipulate Tommen to get rid of her? Maybe she's just playing that game because she has to.
That's true. I mean, right now, all she's done in her manipulations with Tommen is to get rid of Cersei, or try to. So it makes me wonder, well, she could manipulate him to do whatever she wants. And so it'll be interesting to see what that is, besides getting rid of Cersei.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your turn.
Okay, my number 2 was Brienne's backstory, and I think we pretty much covered that one.
Cool. My number 2 was Cersei becoming sympathetic, which we already covered. Jason.
My number 2 is making an example of Janos. We talked about how there's been beheadings, but this is like another in a long line of beheadings to kind of assert leadership. Starting from season 1, episode 1, when Ned Stark decapitated that night watchman for deserting his post and said that line, the one who passes the sentence should swing the sword, which was the lesson that Jon Snow has obviously learned. Then we had that one last week with Dany, who had Dario do it for him. But that was also to sort of prove something, it felt like. Famously, we had Joffrey, who had Ilyn Payne behead Ned Stark, and that was also to assert.
And I got to point out something real quick. It was Janos Slynt that pushed Ned towards Ilyn Payne. It was Janos who put Ned's head down on the block.
Right. Yeah. Yep,
yeah,
traitor.
I do like that we got a bit of unintentional justice for Ned Stark there, because like you said, Janos was very involved in that and betrayed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was
arrested.
the head of the Gold Cloaks.
Yeah.
And that's a reason why Janos was so belligerent with Jon, because he doesn't respect Ned. He thinks well, I guess he thought he was a traitor. I mean, you wondered, was he doing that because he was paid well or what? But I think there is some actual real feeling in it of what Janos was doing. And so he totally didn't respect Jon, obviously, but he got what was coming to him. And then there's Robb beheading Lord Karstark for killing Lannister boys without his permission.
Now, that may have been a huge mistake on his part. That's just it. So you get these different beheadings
always,
with very
different things.
Yeah, exactly. Different meanings, different outcomes.
Well, Theon took a few swings to behead Sir Roderick.
That was a mistake. He's at.
Yeah. So, but I think it was one thing interesting. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beheadings. The only one I think who really wanted to do it was Joffrey. Everybody else sort of reluctantly did it.
That's true.
The beheading I thought was great. It looked very convincing.
Oh, it did. Wow.
It was just, it's that's one of those things. For as much gore and horror and all this crap I love, for whatever reason, beheadings have always bothered me since I was a little kid to now, and it hasn't changed that much. And I can watch some of those horrible things, and I still get a little like, ugh, when it comes to beheadings.
You could see his.
Oh, that looked great! And I've been playing.
His neck.
For the last week, I've been playing nothing but Mortal Kombat 10, and I've seen so many horrible things done to the human body. It's not even funny, but watching that beheading, ooh, that gets me. That gets me.
And right before when he started sniveling and saying, "I'm scared," the actor did such a good job that there was a little piece of me that was like, "Ah, poor guy."
I totally felt bad for him.
Yeah, but I think John did the right thing. I mean, don't you think he did the right thing?
I absolutely do.
I hope so.
In a situation like that,
he needed to do it.
He did.
Well, in a situation like that where he has been, the Night's Watch is dependent on order.
Yeah.
In terms of the fact that these are some of the worst dregs of society who are the Night's Watch.
Plus, he's new. He's young.
Youth is a huge part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was actually a good, this sounds sick, but a great opportunity for him. Like, his leadership will go much easier now that happened.
Well, and everybody was thinking, oh my God, it's Alistair Thorne that's going to get, something bad's going to happen with him and blah, blah, blah. Then the Way said, nope, you have all this experience. You're going to be the first ranger. And then he offered something not great, but relatively decent. At least like, get this fucker away from me. Get Janos away from me. Keep him off. You can't be insubordinate in that sort of situation. You toe the line, man. That is now your Lord Commander, whether you like it or not. And, you saw what happened with Lord Commander Mormont. Well, he had some people that were insubordinate to him, and he was killed for it.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous thing to be Lord Commander, and Jon Snow knows that. So I think this was kind of like that whole notion of when you going into prison, you do something really crazy the first day you're there, where you take somebody down. Yeah. So everybody's like, "Oh man, you stay away from him. He means business." I think that's kind of what John was doing. Look, don't fuck with me, people. I'm not just the bastard kid you can kick around. I am now Lord Commander. Fuck y'all, bitches.
Except it was more like, oh fuck! He's
didn't
forcing me to kill him.
He is. He did.
That's what he's like. He's like, I don't want to do this, you ass, but what I have to now.
Yeah.
So here you go.
Yeah. Snivel all you want. And like Grace, like you were saying, there's that brief moment where you're just like, oh, he is going to show him mercy. Go, John. Go. You're going to show mercy. Nope. There it goes. All right. Well. I love,
and you see Stannis,
the little nod, a little nod from
distance,
Stannis. Yeah, that's what you got to do, boy. Boy, all Commander.
Right. Your turn, Grace.
Number 1.
Yeah, we've covered mine. Our boy John growing up. So take it away. Whoever's next.
I guess I'm next. Mine was actually the Stark kids and identity, which we covered at the very top of that. That's why I said I was stomping all over one of my number 5s. It happened to be my number 1. What's your number 1?
It's all about Cersei, which we've covered most of it. But I have one question for you guys. So in the last episode, we saw. Well, no, you already answered this. I mean, she was in the small council meeting trying to assert her authority. Mm-hmm. She was pretty much being successful at it until the Lannister guy stood up to her, and I really do feel like that put a dent in her power for him to do that. But if it didn't, then you'd think Marjorie better kind of go, oh, Cersei's been going to the small council meetings without Tom, and maybe something should be done about that, know?
I don't think it put a dent in her power because, he left, and who else was there to witness it besides her small council people that she picked?
What did he pick him? What did she pick him for?
Well, he didn't accept.
Okay.
Is he Master of War or something?
Right. So he didn't accept, so she can just pick somebody else.
Yeah. That's not
All
even
right.
that's not even a thing. So there's really no big deal on that. So we got Master of Coin, who's Mace Tyrell.
So what was the point of that then? What was the point?
I think the point was to show that there are people who are opposed to her taking control.
And
of this.
So she just can't just do
However, and this leads directly into my note. The one person that we have not brought up who is on the small council, who had a couple of the best lines of this episode, was Qyburn. That dude's creepy, right? And I love it when the High Septon comes in. He says, hello, Mr. Tyrell, or, Tyrell, Maester Pycelle, blah, blah, blah. And and Qyburn's like, it doesn't matter. He just said, it doesn't matter. Like who he is.
You don't need to know anything about me.
Nobody needs to know who he is. He has been slinking around in the background, right? Now we get at least one scene of him in his laboratory with the rat, right? Jason, what do you think is under that sheet?
The mountain.
Okay. Just curious.
Twitching around.
Now, so the mountain has been there for how long after Oberyn's fight with him? He's still under this sheet, still twitching around. What the fuck is this guy up to? What is Qyburn up to? Qyburn.
Little experiments.
Bringing him back to life.
That shit's creepy, man. That guy, keep your eye on him, because he is creepy as fuck. And just the way he sits there in the small council meetings, just
His whole lair reminded me of this like Nazi guy in American Horror Story Asylum who would do experiments on the inmates in the dungeon below.
Well, I never
really
saw it, but
twisted and disgusting.
I think it's in the same wheelhouse.
It's amazing.
Because
or The Princess Bride, where they had to
certainly
bring the guy back to life.
But he's not dead. He's mostly dead.
Dead.
But it's but that whole thing with Qyburn and the way that he says like "settle down, friend," is just like, oh
yeah. He's like shh, sort of calmly.
Yeah.
He's used to it.
I
back to sleep.
I absolutely love his presence there. I'm very glad that he's been incorporated now into the story, and I think
Quite a creepy presence.
I just don't understand why he's in charge of sending off messages too.
That was just the Maester's job.
Meisters are, yeah.
Meister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is their job.
So just back to Cersei for a second. So she, this whole encounter with the High Sparrow, it wasn't totally clear to me, but it seems like that must be a response to her diminished capacity, which has been kind of shown throughout this whole episode. And so I wonder what's up with that. Like, does she think that she said herself, the faith and the crown are the two pillars that hold up this world. One collapses, so does the other. So it seems like she's trying to get some power in the area of religion. And so I guess she's going to take this guy, the High Sparrow, and put him in the place of the High Septon and have influence in the church.
Yeah, she did say we must do everything necessary to protect one another.
Yeah. And then I wonder what message Cersei sent to Littlefinger. We don't really know. Did it have something to do with what was going on in that episode? I guess
feel
we
like
don't know, right?
Didn't she say what it was in the episode before, or was that this episode? She did say something of... I don't recall.
I don't know. She just said something, make sure he knows what immediately means, basically, or something like that. So maybe she was calling him to her.
All right. Let's move on to listener responses. This first one comes from Natalie Arthur. I loved Marjorie digging her claws ever so politely into Cersei and her day drinking habits. Also loved Cersei's face when Tommen was essentially like, okay, you can go back to Casterly Rock now. Okay, thanks, bye.
Nick Quinto said, "Oh, Sansa, I think Tyrion said it right. Lady Stark, you may survive us yet. She's really learned to play the game, and she must be really tough having endured the last few years and still be going strong. That's one lucky boy, King, even though Marjorie is digging her claws so deep into Tommen that soon you won't be able to tell where Marjorie ends and Tommen begins."
Well said.
Ned Rogers says, loved it. Winterfell coming full circle is the place where shit happens. Sansa and Finger, Roose, Ramsay and Reek, Brienne and Pod, Stannis the Manus, all looking as if they could end up there together. It's going to hit the fan in an awesome way. Liking the changes from the books, which seems to meander at times. Interesting, effective, efficient adaptation.
I'm glad to hear that as a person who hasn't read the books but have heard about this meandering, that the changes they're making in the show might be a little tighter.
I'm going to say this real quickly about the book show comparison without any spoilers. I am really, really happy with how they're treating this. And I think I've spoken to at least one or two other people about this, and we all seem to be in agreement. We are getting the greatest hits of the last two books. It is streamlined, and it's wonderful.
Agreed.
That's all. That's all I'm going to say.
Cool. Olivia Deck says, all I could think about when John called for Longclaw was the Waterboy line, "You can do it! Cut his fucking head off! Head off!"
Yay, Rob Schneider.
Evan Brookman said, Lord Commander Jon Snow heeding his dad's words. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. Also, the Onion Knight's explanation on oaths with Jon was great. Not overbearing and forceful or judgmental, just a less direct view from a wise old smuggler. Seriously, though, all the stories unfolding are richly crafted tales.
Michael Harding says, we are so lucky that Ramsay Bolton is not the tax man for all of Westeros. There would be a lot of flayed people out there. Also, Tyrion really likes to pee off tall places. I would have to give the episode 4.25 drunken tied-up dwarves.
Lara Willie Swink says, most awkward first date conversation ever. Sansa to Ramsay, I like lemon cakes, needlepoint, and long walks on the beach. Ramsay to Sansa, I like grilled sausages, cutting off and mailing man bits in a box, and flailing and skinning men, women, and children alive. Oh, that's so nice.
Oh, Ramsay, you rakish fellow, you.
I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to the sun. We're up all night to get some. We're up all night for good fun. We're up all night to get lucky. 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 We're up all night to get lucky.
Move on to news about Game of Thrones.
Okay, this first one is one that one of our co-hosts, David, sent in, so I thought I'd cover it, but it's from the Sun-Times, and it's titled, Durham Bulls Debut Game of Thrones-Inspired Uniforms. It's the Tampa Bay Rays AAA affiliate hosted a Game of Thrones night for their bout with the Charlotte Knights last Thursday. You could even bid on one of the special jerseys worn in the game. It was pretty cool. You read that too, Jason, didn't you? Had the special jerseys made and everything for it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to combine sports with nerdiness.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay.
I love it.
Our next
Are they,
one.
wait, instead of bats, do they have swords? They're like, throwing heads instead
that would
of
make
baseballs.
it really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next one is from the Huffington Post. Apparently, Northern Illinois University is offering a course this semester on the HBO series Game of Thrones. I always like these because I'm like, I would totally take this course.
No shit. Yeah.
But
we are taking a course.
We are. That's true. But it's called Game of Thrones Television and Medieval History. Let me read a quote here. It represents aspects of the Middle Ages much more realistically than other media depictions that purport to be more accurate, co-professor Valerie Garver said. It stands out because it comments on the human condition in a way that seems real to people. It's a really good example of a piece of modern culture that draws on how the past impacts the present. I don't know. I thought it sounded really cool. They said everybody signed up and it was full within an hour, and they're going to have another one next semester. So you guys got to get in on that. I want to hear all about it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, if anybody's taken that class, send us an email. I'd love to hear about it.
When I was in school, I had to take Chaucer.
Oh,
I hate it.
God.
That just doesn't sound half as interesting.
No, Middle English sucks.
Yeah.
Oof.
I had a bad teacher, too. My Shakespeare teacher was awesome.
Okay, let's see. This last one is just another fun one I found, but I was looking around for news, and I came across this great gift idea for those of you with a friend or loved one that already, has everything. But it's an Iron Throne toilet. But apparently, this guy, Tim Baker, a prop designer in Los Angeles, built a Game of Thrones themed Iron Throne toilet as a surprise for superfan John Giovinazzi. I guess he owns a bar in Glendale, California called Complex. So if you guys live around Glendale, go to Complex and check out the Iron Throne toilet. But it was really cool. It had a little video. They showed the making of it and everything. And they put a bunch of swords, everything they made from scratch. And it was really cool.
How do you flush it?
It has a working toilet under it. You know? They built it around.
I wonder if you push down one of the blades or something.
But you'll be cut when you do it.
I don't think so, but they did have a little special toilet paper holder on one of the hilts of the sword. So that was cool. See, perfect gift idea.
That is awesome.
But that was all I had today.
Nice.
All right, let's move on to Raven's Calls. All right, this first one is from Tarek Glasker, who says, "Hi, everyone. This week's episode highlighted how, as a leader, you can do your statement-making public beheadings right. Jon Snow's move was exactly how a leader should establish the firm but fair notion. I hope Daenerys was taking notes. The contrast between the two beheadings at Meereen and Castle Rock couldn't have been starker in terms of how everyone else reacted to them. Overall, I think this was an episode of calculated gambles. Jon Snow took one with a swish of his sword. Tyrion took one it would have been more of a gamble not to do it, I would say. Tyrion took one revealing himself in Volantis. Yeah, that was a dumb thing to do. And Cersei took another desperate one, siding with the Sparrows. Agreed. The performance of the week for me was Jonathan Pryce as High Sparrow. A lot of steel beneath that mellow-looking outlook."
Agreed.
And then also, what's his name? Littlefinger took a gamble, too, by going to Winterfell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even talked about it.
Actually, I'd give the performance of the week, though, to Sophie Turner. I think Sansa, the look on her face when she goes from that cold, I really don't want to fucking be here, meeting up with Ramsay and Roose, to such a pleasure, and putting on the princess roles.
Hello.
Like, fuck, that's amazing. and I love the fact that Roose's fat wife was next to Ramsay.
Walda.
Do you remember that story, Jason, at all? About his wife?
Vaguely.
Walder Frey made him a deal. You can pick any of my daughters, and I'll pay you her weight in silver.
Oh, that's right. So he picked the fattest one.
He picked the fattest one. But he's actually pretty nice to her, so sorry. Go on.
That's cool. They're all good, though. I can't think of any bad actors on this show. They're all just really good.
True dat.
I give this episode 4.5 public beheadings as a statement out of 5. Cheers, Tarek Glasker.
Thank you. So our next one is from James. "Hi, gang. I think we should call you the Small Council."
I like it.
Mr. Blahg, you can be Qyburn.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice in last week's podcast that a couple of the times that Mr. Blahg said George R.R. Martin, it really sounded like Jar Jar Martin. Come on, Mr. Blahg. That was a low blow. Smiley face.
Okay. Yes, I did say Jar Jar Martin, and that I honestly can't stop from saying that now. On another Game of Thrones podcast, whose name I will not mention because it was something I listened to other than ours, they said Jar Jar Martin. It made me giggle and titter so much, it stuck with me. And now I can't even say George R.R. Martin without having to really think about it. So I didn't intend to say that necessarily, but it makes me giggle. So sorry about that.
So thank you, Cast of Thrones, for that.
Yes, it was Cast of Thrones. How did you know? We've talked about this. Okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Every time Karen and David said it, I thought they were saying Jar Jar Martin. I was like, is that a joke between them or something? But then I figured out, maybe they really are saying George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny that I never picked it up when you said it, but when they said it, I did. Okay. Go on.
Well, obviously James picked up on it, so sorry about that, dude.
Excellent episode this week. Whenever I see Sansa, I'm struck by how imposing she seems. The dark clothing, the rigid posture, the stark expression on her face. Sorry, no pun intended. That was totally intended, James. If she walked into the room I was in, I would instantly know that this is a girl not to be messed with. Ramsay Bolton creeps the hell out of me.
Yeah.
He's so good at putting on the public face and such a monster at all other times. Does Littlefinger know that Ramsay is a psycho? He must. I feel that Littlefinger's talk to Sansa in their first scene this episode was meant to tell her, you have to marry him to take the initiative. But what I think Sansa understood from that conversation was, I have to kill the Boltons. And I think she'll take that as her mission, to kill Roose and Ramsay and frame someone else for it. Reek, perhaps? Once she figures out who he is, she'll want revenge on him too.
Nice.
I think it was interesting that Littlefinger said, "Oh, you know what? I don't really know you that well. I wonder if we can, take that at face value. Like maybe he didn't realize he was delivering her into the hands of a monster."
I don't think
knows everything.
No, I don't think he knows how bad Ramsay is.
I mean, Theon didn't.
Well, I don't think maybe
now he does.
people know to the extent.
Knows all too well.
I mean,
Theon has no dick. Come on, let's not forget this. He cut off the man's dick.
poor
Oh
Theon.
my God, how horrible is that? Oh, Ramsay Snow,
And
you
we had to
monster.
watch it for a whole season.
Yeah, oh, that was so bad.
okay. Props to Jon for following his instincts again in shortening Janos lengths by a head. I think every man in Castle Black respected him for that choice. Final thought for this week. The Walking Dead cast has a great sign-off, and I think that Game of Microphones should have a contest to see who can come up with the best sign-off for this show. Instead of don't get bit, how about don't get flayed, Theon Greyjoy, or don't die horribly, Rob Stark. Sincerely, James from Portland.
What, should we have a
Awesome. Thanks,
contest?
James.
I thought it would be fun. This episode, this show is so filled with people making horrible mistakes that we can come up with a new thing not to do every week.
And we can't do a sign off based on one individual because you never have any idea if they're going to live.
Well,
throughout that
for this
episode.
show, it would be something to do with like, don't be an honorable person.
Yeah, exactly. Don't,
or you're going to die.
yeah, totally. Just don't get involved with anybody on this show. Run away. Be a small person. Go to Dorne. It looks nice. If you're a girl, go to Dorne. They seem to treat you well. I don't know. That'd be a tough one. Yeah. Don't be dragon bait.
If you hear how's this? I still totally love the idea of us getting to be creative each episode and come up with something new. But if you have any ideas, send them in.
For sure. Yeah. Maybe yours will be read. Ooh. Thank you, James. That was awesome. Next email comes from Drea Age. Haiku review for you. A new queen rises. Impatient Arya sweeps. John's off with their heads. Nice. I like that one.
Very nice.
So that's where that little finger snake was taking Sansa. It's so hard to tell with him if he has truly good intentions for this poor girl. He's always like 5 steps ahead in the game, and I never know what he's up to. That little bastard. What fun to watch. Drea. Alrighty.
Yeah, that's a good point that he is always 5 steps ahead because
He is.
and he really is obsessed with Sansa. So I'm thinking she's not going to be in too much danger. I don't know. I'm trusting in Littlefinger right now. That's a scary prospect.
Yeah, it is. What the fuck are you saying?
All right. Thanks, you guys, for writing in. We totally appreciate that. It's so much fun. Okay, now this week, you two, Grace and Mr. Blahg, get to go in the poop box and talk about the book. So
Hell no.
go ahead and
Whoa,
get on in there.
whoa.
And I'll be waiting
Fuck
outside
off,
in the
you.
fresh air.
No.
Bye-bye.
Grace, you're ready to shove Jason in the poop box. We got the soundproof holes. You go in the box,
And
Jason.
it's a good thing I'm editing the podcast this week.
Alrighty. Okay.
I'll probably just leave that whole thing in. That'll be funny.
Okay, cool. So, man, that was fun. I felt like you and I really had to hold our tongues quite a bit during that episode,
Yeah.
especially when he's asking us about Arya. well, I disagree with you about the sword. And all I could think is, dude, I've read the paragraph where she talks about how that sword is Winterfell and everything about her past.
Oh,
Shut up! Stop pushing.
I don't remember that. That's funny. I don't remember that.
No, and actually, I just read it today because I did go onto Reddit. I was looking through a bunch of things, and people reposted that actual paragraph as she was deciding whether or not to throw Needle into the water, and she recounts exactly what Needle means to her, and she does say it is the cold walls and the gray of Winterfell. It is Bran, it's Sansa, it's Robb, it's Jon. She goes through the whole list of what it means to her and how she can't throw that away quite yet.
Interesting. I mean, I did get that from the look, but I don't remember that specific paragraph. But I do feel the show.
But we had that feel of it. We know where that comes
very
from.
Well, yeah. Before we get too deep in this, do you want to go ahead and read the letter? Well, I'll read the letter.
Okay, go for it.
This one is from Sean Bustler. Did anyone else feel weird seeing Tommen in bed with Marjorie?
Yes. I was like,
well,
wait, that didn't happen.
The only time they really kissed was that little kiss at their wedding. She kissed his forehead, but they didn't, she stopped him before he kissed
because he's like 8 in the book or 9. I mean, he's really young in the book.
Yeah, in the book he's 9, yeah.
They have not consummated their marriage in the book.
Not tried to break the record if there is one.
No.
And in fact, she still, yet again, hasn't consummated a marriage. Poor Marjorie.
Yeah.
Okay. Sansa and Ramsay. Yeah, I'm scared about that.
Well,
Will
we'll talk
Rick
about
do
that
his
in a moment.
best Lord's kiss impression after the wedding?
Oh.
Glad they gave Brienne her exposition on her past. Cersei was being actually kind of lovely this episode, so she's up to something. And finally, the High Septon scene plays out far better in the show than in the books. Better caught being a hypocrite than murdered off-screen by a semi-minor character. Thanks, Sean Bustler.
Look,
awesome.
like I said at the top, thank you very much, Sean, by the way. Like I said at the top of this episode, where I really do believe the changes they are making for the show are really good changes. The books 4 and 5 ramble all over the fucking place. And I feel like we are getting this greatest hits streamlined version of those books. And it makes sense. Now, right off the bat, what I want to let's talk about the Sansa thing.
Okay.
That's a
change.
Big change because Sansa is supposed to be married to some other person. Hold on, I have it here.
Well, it was one of the relatives of Sweet Robin.
It was Harold
his...
Harding, Robin's heir, Harold Harding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get into what happens. And now in Winterfell, what's happening is they're pretending Jane Poole, who was Sansa's best friend back at Winterfell, is Arya Stark. Right. In the book, they're saying Arya Stark is going to marry Ramsay. Nobody has any fucking clue what Arya Stark actually looks like, so they believe it and they buy into it.
Yeah, because they say that, Jane kind of has those traditional northern looks like Arya did.
Yeah. Now, what happens...
They can just easily pass her off.
Now, what happens is when Stannis' people show up, Theon grabs Jane to get the fuck out of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is very simple. Theon is going to try to redeem himself by grabbing Sansa to get the fuck out of there when Stannis arrives. I think that's how this is going to play out. I think it's set up really, really well because it would be way too complicated to get into this whole Arya thing.
And I think that's exactly why they didn't do that, because it's complicated and it's not necessary, it seems.
No, but you can do it with Sansa, and this works out really, really well. I am tickled pink by the changes that they are making on this.
Well, and it makes our characters more important when you give them, when he's giving them more parts rather than having someone else play them.
Yeah. And there are a whole lot then let's get into some of the other differences. I mean, there were a lot. I mean, again, like we said before, we're out of our element.
We don't need to get
point.
nitpicky. I mean, we can just talk about the bigger ones too.
No. We don't have. Of course, Tommen is actually, here we go. He's 9 years old. I have some info in front of me. He and Marjorie have not consummated their marriage. There's some other nitpicky things like the fact that it's not Ollie who's actually his his John Stewart. It's actually a kid named Satin who was raised as a whore. Sir Alistair was never made to be first ranger. Of course, the whole thing with Janos Slint was a little bit different because he actually had a day to think about it. It didn't happen in quite as quick of a fashion, but the ending was the exact same.
Yeah, and the feeling was the same because in the book he was going to hang Janos, but then changes his mind and gets his sword. But during that time when he's changing his mind, you think he's going to
Janos thinks I'm off the hook.
and the reader thinks so too. Just like when I was watching yesterday, I was like kind of thinking that he was going to spare Janos when Janos was trying to ask for mercy.
Yeah.
So the spirit of it, they just get the spirit of it so well, even
they
if
really
it plays
did.
out a little differently.
And John very specifically says, Ed, get the block. Now, first of all, good luck getting the show watchers to understand who Dolorous Ed even is. You know, he's there, but we don't really know who he is that well, which is a pity because he was a great character. And also at the same time, what the fuck's a block? You know, so it's probably better that they just did it the way that they did it. Very straightforward. I have no issue with that. The other thing, Tyrion, he does shag that prostitute.
Yeah. He didn't feel quite so bad.
No, he does not feel quite so bad. The book Tyrion is really about his base urges. And then
I think the funnier thing is that in the book, I think the Daenerys lookalike was on Jorah's lap.
Yes. It is on Jorah's lap.
Which is kind of awesome. But, I guess they want Jorah to... I don't know.
I thought that would have been amazing because that was one of those moments. That's one of the few moments in these books where I'm always like, that was awesome. The fact that Jorah had a Dany lookalike on his lap. I thought that was great. And he had visited her many, many times in the past.
That is just so sick.
And of course, Jorah kidnaps Tyrion right in the middle of the brothel. There's none of this off to the side. People tried to stop him. And he brandishes his sword. And he's like, nope, don't fuck with me. So that is totally different. Of course, when Arya gets rid of all her possessions, she goes back to the House of Black and White completely naked. Mm-hmm. Thank you, HBO, for not doing that to poor Maisie Williams. She was only 17 at the time that they filmed that. So that would have been weird and wrong. Also, when Tyrion sees the Red Priestess, if you recall... Now, okay, so here's another thing. With Tyrion's journey through Volantis and all of this, it was done on river. They were on a boat.
Tyrion's story has changed drastically.
Totally. Not only is Varys not there with him, somebody else who's there with him, it is... I have the name. Halden Hafmeister is who is actually with him. There's this whole entire grayscale side story going on because he's also with a supposed, Aegon. He's with the supposed Targaryen who's together with Jon Connington and the Griffin. And it's a pity that Jon Connington is not on this. I would love it if he were in the show. There was a fear of Tyrion because he fell into the water with these stone men. Afraid that maybe Tyrion has grayscale, but as it then turns out, no, he doesn't, but Jon Connington does. So it's interesting that the Red Priestess, and I'm glad we didn't talk about this with Jason because this would have led us down this potential hole about grayscale. I love the fact that the Priestess brought that up and that Tyrion did say, oh yeah, they think they're going to get rid of grayscale. That's never going to happen. So
praying, they can pray away grayscale.
Yeah. So it's interesting that this keeps coming up. They've also really hammered it home in the last episode with Shireen and Gilly about the grayscale. So there's something about grayscale that's going to play into it, but we don't know what it is. I mean, and then, all the other little changes are, as you just said, nitpicky, needling little things that we can go into, but it's really kind of pointless.
Well, I had a question, and the question comes up, I think, mainly because they have the actor that played Jaqen H'ghar back in the TV show, and they didn't, have him back in the book. Now, there was talk from book readers at one point that they thought that Jaqen was, in fact, Serial Pharrell.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't believe that one.
Well, and it doesn't really work for the book anymore, I don't think. But I think maybe, there's talk that maybe it's more of a possibility they could go that route for the TV series.
They could. I mean, there are 2 other places I believe Jaqen has showed up in the books. I still don't buy that Syrio, and I do believe Syrio did die at the hand of Meryn Trent. Because bottom line is Meryn Trent is still very much alive in the show.
Very true. Arya still has Meryn on her list.
Yes.
So, and that's another reason I think people are speculating this is because they dropped a ton of people off her list that are not dead. She just seemed to have lost interest in them. But they have, which really makes the fact that Meryn Trent is on there really stand out, I think. Because then you're like, well, who the hell is he? And then you're like, oh, yeah, he's the guy that supposedly killed Syrio. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I don't even know. No, I don't. I do not. I know it's a theory that's been floated out there. I don't buy it. I do believe. Here's where I do think we've seen Jaqen H'ghar. Because look, let's get this out of the way. Jaqen is not the fucking kindly man. His appearance in the show is wrong. That's just
the book.
Totally
it's different from the book. You mean.
Different from the book. Because Jaqen has been in 2 different places. One, I thoroughly believe he killed Balon Greyjoy. Yet, that has not been finished. Okay, this is one little hole that's been bugging me the whole time. The 3 leeches that Melisandre throws into the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Renly. Was it Renly? Yeah, Renly was one of them. Joffrey. And Balon Greyjoy. These were the pretenders to the throne as far as Melisandre was concerned. We have not heard hide nor hair of Balon Greyjoy in this time. He's still alive, but he's dead at this point in the book. And everybody said, the whole rumor was the siege. He was on a bridge going between some of the islands, and a giant wave just came and took him. Or actually, somebody said, but then at some point somebody does say it was a faceless man that took him. Or something like that, a man without a face. They say some allusion to that. I believe that's Jaqen. Now, in the books, you get the opening of Pate, who's at the Citadel, and who's taken over by a faceless man. I believe...
Yeah, you mentioned that last week.
Now, I believe that it is Pate, who is in fact now Jaqen H'ghar, but I think they're eliminating the Citadel altogether. You have Maester Aemon at the Castle Blahg, who should be getting sick later, but he's now sick at Castle Blahg. I don't think Gilly and Sam are going anywhere. I think they're keeping him there. I was
thinking, seeing that Mance Rayder seems to be really, really dead, I would assume they're going to drop the whole Gilly and Sam
I think they are.
and baby story. Yeah,
I think they are. I think, again, streamlining it. So,
yep.
Which is, unfortunately also in one of the... Okay, so here's the other thing that's greatly missing from the storyline right now, and I really hope they bring this back, but maybe they're dropping it altogether. The Greyjoys have been conspicuously absent. Where is Asha? Or, excuse me, Yara, as far as TV show or watchers are concerned. Where's Theon's sister? The last time we saw her, she was running away from 2 dogs, like the baddest chick in the world, running away from 2 dogs. That really pissed me off. We should have Viserion. We should have the whole Greyjoy, the King's Moot. I mean, there's so many things that go on with them. And in one of the chapters that Jar Jar has released, one of those was the Greyjoys attacking the Citadel. But if they're eliminating the Citadel, are they eliminating
Winds of Winter? You're saying?
Yeah. Because he's been releasing a lot of chapters from the Winds of Winter, and one of them is a Sansa chapter. That was the most recent one, which I actually chose not to read. I decided, no, I'm going to stop reading these things. But I got the lowdown on what it was all about. And she's playing the game. Let's put it that way. I don't know what's going on with the lack of the Greyjoys, and that's kind of bugging me a little bit.
I was not a Greyjoy fan.
A lot of people weren't. I think my Norwegian
aside
background,
from the sister, I didn't care for the Greyjoy. So and all the uncles and all that. Yeah. So I wasn't disappointed to have not seen them.
You know what? And it's been fine that they haven't been. I mean, part of me's bothered by it, but at the same time, understanding, understanding cuts need to be made. Theon is not as big of a deal in the TV shows he is in the books. But I don't know. I do miss that presence. I think it does add a really groovy element to the whole thing. I like the entire Viking sort of way of life, the Iron Price. But ultimately, it's that giant plot hole. It's still bugging me, is that they had the leech for Balon Greyjoy, and nothing has happened with it. They haven't even mentioned it. It hasn't come up. So they yet. Because there was
maybe I should do the Yoda voice. No, I can't do the Yoda voice.
Well, there was a great line from Davos in the book after Joffrey died, where he tells Melisandre something like, well, it's still only 2. It wasn't the 3 that she prophesized. So maybe they're saving it to give Melisandre a little kick in the balls for Davos or something. I don't know, but that's bothering me a little bit. But however, about this episode. I think we covered the main. I mean, Peter and Sansa, they never go to Winterfell. So, the Sansa one is the big glaring, whoa, what the fuck is this all on about? That's different, but I think that's just taking the place of the fake Arya. Cool. I think it'll work out really well, to tell you the truth.
It excites me. I like to have some. I'm enjoying having some changes.
Well, and this may end up being this may work out to be Theon's redemption. Mm-hmm. He's going to try to make up for. Yeah. Of course, he will probably. I'm hoping he will tell Sansa immediately. No. Bran and Rickon are still alive. I killed other kids. I didn't kill them. They're off north.
But he doesn't know they're still alive. I mean, he knew they were alive at one point. We don't even know if Rickon was
true, but
alive.
He knew that he didn't kill them at least.
Right.
That he knows at least that much.
Would she have to believe him too? I don't know, but I'm excited to see this.
No, I am too. I think this is going to be fantastic, and I love, I really do love hearing the perspective of just the TV watchers. But you know what? Look, at this point, all bets are off. What they do on the show versus what they do in the books. We are beginning to be in the weeds. There's a point here in the show where we're not going to have any idea what happens.
Yeah.
Book talk is going to become superfluous relatively soon. However, let's one last thing to talk about: Cersei and the High Sparrow.
Yes.
Now Cersei, you recall, at this point she had already replaced the High Septon with the High Sparrow.
Yeah, but and then wasn't there another guy in there? I mean, I want to say there was like 3 of them. At this point, we only have 2 guys.
Well, then you get the Kettle Black.
But we did have that Walk of Shame or whatever the High Septon did, but it was like a different Septon.
Well, that didn't happen with the Septon, though.
Well, I thought it happened to another.
Yeah, Cersei.
No, before that.
It may have. I don't recall who that is.
But that was some great foreshadowing to the Cersei.
No, it was fantastic. And I think that was really great the way they showed that, because it's like, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen to Cersei. And it's interesting.
I think it was a nice tease for the book readers to know that this is coming.
Oh yeah, and how humiliating it really is. Mm-hmm. I love that every single time the High Septon tried to cover up his junk, they were there to whip him to make sure, nope, keep it out there. You got to be shamed. You don't get to cover up, buddy. And I'm assuming the same is going to happen with Cersei, and it's going to be very upsetting. Now, how this is going to be set up, I don't quite know, because there aren't the Kettle Blacks for her to set Marjorie up with.
Well, I think Lancel is going to play more of a part than he
Well, I think Lancel will play a big part for Cersei, but for Marjorie, what does she have to
on her?
Now, I think the only thing will be Renly. Or not Renly, Renly in a way, but Loras. The shame of her gay brother. That's the only thing she's really got on Marjorie.
Well, but that's not even on Marjorie.
No, but in this world it might be. I don't know. But she needs something to try to sell Marjorie down the river and then have that be double crossed and then to suddenly turn. Because Lancel is going to have to be the one to then turn on Cersei.
Right.
he's going to have to confess his sins to the High Sparrow about what he did with his cousin. That's what's going to lead Marjorie to that. Or excuse me, Cersei to her walk of shame.
Exactly.
But what about Marjorie?
I don't know.
Or is Marjorie going to be left out of it? Will this not be a Marjorie versus Cersei thing? Which would then gut the entire premise of what that is about.
Yeah, it could be.
At that point, then Cersei becomes very sympathetic.
And she didn't, that would make her even more sympathetic and I do think they're cutting out the Kettlebacks or Kettleblacks.
Oh, they've completely cut out the Kettleblacks, yeah.
So that right there makes her less sinful, if you want to put it that way. So, yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. I'm loving it. I really am. Was there much about Arya? No, just the fact that she went in naked.
Yeah, I think it was similar.
I don't remember the waif being as bitchy to Arya as she is in the show.
She was like this little tiny thing, and was she blind?
I'm not sure if she was blind. I know there were some blind people in there. I don't know if the waif was or not. She might have been. I mean, eventually Arya will be, and I'm looking forward to that. But I don't remember the waif being so nasty to her, you know. And I must say, I loved Arya dropping the C-bomb on her. She starts beating it. I'm like, whoa, that little girl just called her a cunt. Damn. All right, good. I like this. I love Arya.
She's tough as nails, that one.
So that threw me off a little bit because I thought the waif was a lot nicer to her. You know, I really did than that. But then again, it was also the kindly man, not Jaqen Hagar. So
yeah, well, I think it's just a very quick way of showing how she's not ready. You know, getting to that point where she needs to throw out her stuff.
Yeah,
it's a little different, but it serves the same purpose of probably 4 Arya chapters.
And of course, Arya hides Needle in a hole under the steps, leading up to the House of Black and White.
Yep.
Not to the breakwater, or whatever it was she buried that in. I don't know what the hell that was, but it was
just like a wall, cool. Part of a wall, I think. But anyway,
I don't know. As a book reader, I mean, I think you and I are in agreement. You know, changes, but man, these are great fucking changes. This was great. It was a wonderful episode. I think the spirit of the books is very much alive, and I thought it was fantastic.
Agreed.
All right, we're back from that thing that I didn't hear any of, and it's
get out of your poop box, Jason.
It's really weird to have a podcast that there's a long section that I don't listen to.
And actually, I will be editing that section and sending it to you to edit into there, so you're never going to hear it.
I know. The whole section could just be, Jason's a dickhead. For like,
dude, you listened? What the hell?
You listened to last week? I thought you didn't want any spoilers.
I'm sure one loyal listener would probably write in and let you know.
That's true. Oh my God, Mr. Blahg is such a dick. He said this.
Yeah, but who's in charge of the email? Grace.
I am.
That's true. Yeah.
You can still read them, though. So.
That's true.
If you chose to.
All right. What's coming up next week?
Okay, next week on Game of Thrones, Season 5, Episode 4. The title is The Sons of the Harpy. And the description they give is Marjorie seeks prudent counsel. Jaime struggles in foreign lands.
Yeah.
Dany answers the Harpy's call. So not as much information as last time. I think we got more of a teaser last time with the whole Tom and Marjorie thing.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like there's going to be a big convergence on Winterfell next week.
No. If anything, that'll be episode 9. They always save the big shit for episode 9.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it looks like we'll get to see some Meereen, and I'm actually excited to see Jaime.
I know. I am always excited to see Jaime. Any scene with Jaime in, man, I'm a happy camper. And now you put him together with Bronn, the other person that just makes me a happy camper. I am so looking forward to the best road trip ever. Can't wait to see that.
And this is, a little spoilery because I saw the scenes from next week.
Yeah.
And it showed Oberyn's lover.
Yeah, Ilaria. She was like basically getting ready to stage a coup against Doran.
Oh.
So that should be interesting.
Okay. The episode's going to be directed by Mark Malloyd, who also directed this week's episode, High Sparrow, and apparently he's worked on The Affair, Shameless, and Entourage, among others. And it's going to be written by Dave Hill. He's been an assistant to Benioff and Weiss for the past 30 episodes, but this is going to be his first episode as full writer. Very cool. Looking forward to it, as we have said.
Awesome.
Yay. All right, that's our show, episode 7. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you want to give us a call, you can reach us at 813-563-3739. That's 813-JOFFREY. You know, we haven't gotten any calls yet. That's okay with me. It's fun answering emails, but just want to put it out there that whoever does call first, you know, will be forever immortalized as our very first caller.
Who doesn't want to call 813-JOFFREY? That's awesome.
It's scaring everyone off.
Maybe you can email us at game@podcastica.com.
You can check us out on our websites at gameofmicrophones.com.
We're also on Twitter at Podcastica and on Facebook at facebook.com/Podcastica.
And be sure to check out the other fine podcasts in our network at podcastica.com.
Join us next week for Game of Thrones, Season 5, Episode 4, Sons of the Harpy, with hosts Karen, David, and me.
Yay!
Yay!
Before we close, did you get around to seeing Ex Machina?
Not yet. No.
Oh, you got to go see that. You're going to love it.
I want to see that. That
will.
one I really want to see.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
Cool.
Just people who are listening, you already heard me talk about this on Walking Dead Cast, some of you, but it's one of the best sci-fi I've seen in a long time. Really good. All right, that's our show.
Thanks for listening.
If you steal a ham, make sure you ditch the bone before passing out.
You can do it!